Donald Trump grows more unhinged as the election draws closer, and now he and his allies are trying to change the rules of the voting game after kickoff. Plus, will Kamala Harris make a run for the border? Why her campaign is weighing a visit on a vulnerable issue. Also, Janet Jackson becomes the latest to prove that a simple Google search can't even cure America's misinformation epidemic. And why one rivalry's racial framing is a mirror to the presidential race and society. Live at the table, Scott Jennings, Bakari Sellers, Aaron Perini, and Jamel Hill. With 42 days to go, Americans with different perspectives aren't talking to each other, but here they do. Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Let's get right to what America is talking about. The closer the election, the more unhinged Donald Trump is getting. Here is a sampling of just some of his posts in the last 48 hours. He baselessly says that the FBI is purposefully mishandling the second assassination attempt against him. He baselessly says Democrats are rigging votes from Americans overseas. He and his allies are actively working to change election laws in several states. He's making false claims about women. He's saying that Vice President Harris is against Catholics. He's still pushing debunked pet eating conspiracies. And he posted, then deleted, a conspiracy about Diddy and Harris. He's attacking Jimmy Kimmel, ABC, even Oprah. There's a lot going on here with Trump. It seems like the weekend he's free. He's got a lot of time on his hands. Maybe he's golfing, but he has a lot to say and no character limits on Truth Social, apparently. I mean, some of these posts are like giant paragraphs and they don't make a lot of sense. You will no longer be thinking about abortion, he says to women, because it is now where it has always had to be with the states. I mean, that's just one of many things that he had to say this weekend, but almost none of it is to the point of what I think Republicans want this election to be about, presumptively.
Well, I mean, it's stuff that's in the news. I mean, let's take the assassination issue with the FBI. I have real concerns about why they released this second assassin's letter. I mean, I think a lot of Republicans are like, why is this guy's letter and his call for Trump to be assassinated and his, $150,000 whatever? I mean, I think it's a legitimate gripe that he has. I mean, there's other shootings that have gone on in this country, and the People's Manifesto is under lock and key. We can't find it. Somehow this letter is out. I think it's a real gripe.
The alleged assassin, he had a hearing today, so that's one of the reasons. But I mean, I'm not even sure what's the point that Trump is trying to make, and what does that have to do with?
First of all,
what does that have to do with winning the election?
Well, I mean, he this guy clearly said in his letter he wanted to assassinate Trump, and because he failed, he wants other people to do it. And I don't know about you, but it's a crazy environment. There's a bunch of crazy people out there, and that could be a clarion call for them.
This is where at 10:03, Scott and I will agree. I do think we're going to progressively just get more as the show goes on.
We have to start off.
Yeah, we have to start off. I know. But I wish that the FBI and whomever the Florida State Law Enforcement Agency come together and figure out and get to the root of this assassination attempt on Donald Trump. We don't need to see this. Political violence has no place in it. You can say those things. We can also have a conversation about the fact that the mass shootings we see in the country and the attempts on President Trump's life all include AR-15s. And if you want to have a conversation about gun control when it comes to Donald Trump and assassination attempts, let's do it. Let's have it here on the Abby Phillips Show. I don't think that's where you all want to go. But the other point is that, yes, I think you're right. He's becoming unhinged. I mean, he's tweeting like I would tweet late at night after a couple of bottles of Casamigos. He is just sending out paragraph after paragraph. I believe, Scott, that you would much rather him talk about the border, immigration, and things that matter to the American people than what he tweets about night in and night out. And I think that is what the American people don't want when they think about him as president of the United States. He's emblematic of chaos, and that's what you see on Truth Social.
He's once again claiming that Democrats are going to cheat. This time he says that they're talking about how they're working so hard to get millions of votes from Americans living overseas. Actually, they are getting ready to cheat. They want to dilute the true vote of our beautiful military and their families. There's no evidence of this.
I think that's correct, but there's also a really rigorous process, including when you are abroad, to make sure that you can verify not only your voting status in the United States, but the state you live in. And those standards are really important, not only to Donald Trump, but to Republicans writ large when it comes to what they talk about when it comes to election security.
Is he trying to? Is he trying to sow these seeds, and not just of doubt, but to do what he did the last time, to just say that the whole thing is rigged just because he says so?
I think it's fair to ask questions, and I think it's fair to be able to pursue the legal process in the United States if you have questions regarding the outcome of the election. The problem is when it goes beyond that, when it becomes more than that. There are legal avenues and means to be able to do anything when it comes to the election, to be able to question how it ended up, if it's whether it's the counting or the timing the polls closed or how the ballots were received. There's a million different legal avenues. That's the only thing that should be pursued, which is are the legal avenues to make sure that every legal vote.
He's saying that they're cheating, and I mean
He's saying they're getting ready.
Okay.
Let's be fair. Let's be fair.
He's saying they're getting ready to cheat with no evidence of that whatsoever. What is also happening is all across the country, we're seeing this battle starting to play out. The fight over how people vote in Georgia, in Nebraska, in Arizona. Republicans in those states, especially the ones that are aligned with Trump, they are trying to change how the counting works, change how ballots are going to be evaluated in Georgia. They're changing how many times they have to hand count the votes in that state. Hand count.
I know. I mean, why don't they just say they're going to use an abacus? Like, what are we doing here? I think Bakari, you said it perfectly. All of this nonsense. Because Donald Trump over and over just keeps proving he's not a serious person. And even when he has a serious point, I agree with you, is that it's not a good idea to probably publish an assassin's letter. Yeah. Because especially given that he's inviting other people to a call to violence. But I can't even take that seriously because of what all this other nonsense is about it. And so now what he's doing is level setting. All he's doing is saying like, hey, they're trying to cheat. Hey, they're trying to cheat, which is so funny to me because in the last election, in some of these same races where Republicans won. So let me get this right. They're only trying to cheat when you lose. But when Republicans win, that's when the cheating doesn't happen. So I'm just trying to keep up. And so thankfully, he's not on Twitter. He's not on some of these other platforms that I follow because I find this constant barrage of just complete stupidity to be something that just wears you down. Like at some point, I want him to present a hopeful vision for the country, right? To just say, hey, this is what we can do here. This is how we can do things together. And that's the biggest difference that I see between him and Kamala Harris. Like, I actually feel like there's hope out there. I listen to Donald Trump for 5 minutes, and it just makes me want to leave and move somewhere else because why would I subject myself to this?
I love the hope argument because, listen, everybody loves the feel goods. Everybody loves the vibe. Everybody wants to feel that the country's heading in the better direction. And right direction, wrong direction is something that is pulled consistently in this country. But vibes don't win election. And you know what actually motivates voters the most? Are negative TV ads. When it comes to be able to drive, I'm telling you, voters tell focus groups all the time they hate negative TV ads, but that emotion is really what drives a lot of politics. Do I feel my family's going to be safer? Do I feel like I'm going to get more in my paycheck? Do I feel like this country is safe?
That part makes sense. Those are, to me, legitimate questions. Yeah. There's a big difference between that and trying to actually inspire people to help solve a problem.
Neither one of you all have addressed whether or not they're eating your cats or dogs.
I can report my 95-pound dog is still doing very well and actually ate a pumpkin today.
But I mean,
he's on him for a week.
So real quick on Georgia, on the voting counting in Georgia, I've talked to a lot of operatives in Georgia. I've been trying to figure out what's going on there. The Board of Elections removed the only elected official from the Board of Elections, and it's now purely appointed. They have no legal authority to change the rules. From what I'm hearing from Georgia operatives, if they want to try and force a full hand count of the ballots, they don't have the means to at the Board of Elections. Should this be challenged in court, which there's a full anticipation of, this likely wouldn't hold up. And so for them at this point, they don't see anything changing, and a lot of counties already do the hand count after it runs through the machine anyways.
I want to give a shout out though to a Republican while we're here in this kumbaya first segment. But State Senator Mike McDonald, he is a GOP senator from the great city of Omaha, Nebraska. And he is someone who stood up and said, I guess Tom Osborne probably appreciates this, but you can't change the rules in the fourth quarter. He's probably going to be the future mayor of Omaha. I mean, somebody who was a Democrat, had different issues on social issues, I understand it, left the Democratic Party, is now a Republican. But at least he put democracy over Why are you mad about that? Because he didn't change the rules?
I'm just waiting for you to finish.
No, I'm just saying, but he didn't change the
I'm waiting
rules.
patiently.
You gave me my wife's side eye.
I was wondering, what's after labor?
This is sultry grape. We've had this conversation.
This is not white. I can
This
This is not white. It's not
sultry
cream.
grape.
It is.
But Senator McDonald put country over party. And we don't have enough of that, to the point about changing the rules and all these other things. And democracy matters.
Well, so you can't change the rules in the fourth quarter, but you can change a candidate. Look, Democrats been trying to change the rules all year. They tried to get Trump thrown off the ballot earlier this year. That didn't work. Then they changed out their candidate well past the point he had already won the primary. I mean, look, both parties are constantly scraping and clawing for an advantage. I don't particularly care what they do in Nebraska. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen to me. But why is it offensive for one party to try to get an advantage while the other party's been trying to do the same thing all year?
Can I debunk this notion that a lot of Republicans that come on this air and said that we have changed the rules, or all of a sudden Kamala Harris didn't win a primary? I mean, have we beat that horse dead? Can I beat it one more time?
I'm sorry.
I mean,
The president won the primary. The rules are set by the billionaires, and Pelosi showed up and threw it out.
I want to play one more thing. This is from Trump actually tonight. We were talking earlier about Springfield. This is the story that he won't let it go. And here's what he said tonight in Pennsylvania.
Do you think Springfield will ever be the same? I don't think. The fact is, and I'll say it now, you have to get him the hell out. You have to get him out. I'm sorry.
He won't let it go.
No, that's embarrassing. Really, that's embarrassing that him as a presidential candidate would say that, and it's equally as embarrassing that the people there would pick up on that chant. And so, as we're having this conversation about political language and how that's inciting people, I'm looking at this, and it makes it that much harder for when the Republicans especially want to have a conversation about political language when something happens to Trump, but don't want to have a conversation about that. He effectively put a target on a fine community's back, a community that has done nothing but contribute and do all the things that you say that you want legal immigrants or legal immigrants to do. They've done all these things. They work hard. They've contributed. They're held up, as bastions of their community, and to put that target on their back, again,
and just to understand
not a
what you're
serious
saying,
person.
You're talking about legal immigrants in this country. I was watching a piece earlier tonight on CNN. They were evangelical Christians. They're in church. They've got families. They've got kids in school. They own businesses. They are working. They are paying taxes.
Yeah.
So why the send them back chance? And then also, why say you got to get them the hell out?
Yeah, they are here under a current legal process. I do think there's a legitimate debate to be had about that process versus the normal way that immigrants come into the country.
That's
but
one
because
of the normal ways that immigrants have come into this country.
well, but I think it's a legitimate policy debate about whether the
Decades.
executive branch should just grant this kind of status to large populations. And when you do drop large populations into communities, there is a debate about the societal, cultural, and governance impacts of it that is perfectly legitimate to be had. That having been said, these people are here legally. And there's a difference between those people right now and the people that have come in here illegally by the millions during the Biden-Harris administration. And so there is an appetite in the country to deal with illegal immigration, the people who've come here. And Trump right now is winning on that. And I think most Americans see it his way when it comes to mass deportation.
That's not what he was doing tonight. I mean, what he was doing tonight was really dark. And it had nothing to do with people coming across the border, the southern border. He wasn't making any kind of even remotely nuanced argument about that.
But
he was just saying they're not like us, send them back.
He's not capable of doing that. And the problem is that we're less than 50 days out from this election cycle. And so the playbook has changed a little bit. When he was running against Joe Biden, he was very disciplined. He was on message. And now the playbook is back to the normal isms that Donald Trump uses. I mean, he uses xenophobia and racism as political currency. It's us versus them. Do you want your country to become browner or not? I mean, we're not having a conversation about Irish migrants. We're not having a conversation.
Or Ukrainian.
I mean, to be fair, he does say paddy wagon, and that is actually considered like an offense to the Irish American
Personally,
community.
I haven't heard that in a long period of time,
Right.
and I have not
And
heard
we know
He
that's
does
not
say
who
that.
he's talking
and
about.
I haven't heard him put a target on the back of those individuals. And so,
Well,
like,
let's also be clear here. At rallies with Democrats, you have heard them chant "lock him up" about Donald Trump. This is a rhetoric problem on both sides.
no, I
It's
get
not
that.
No, it is.
But
No,
it's
it's
not
not
the same.
close remotely the same.
I'm not even trying to do a whataboutism here. I'm not trying to say these
But
were
that's what you effectively
no,
did.
No, what I said was on both sides. I didn't say one was better than the other, and I
No,
didn't
but
say
let me just
that one had more weight than the
because
other.
that's I don't think
But the
I don't think that's
difference
I
here
think
is
that's a level of intellectual dishonesty.
No,
And
I don't
let me
think it is.
explain why.
No, I think it's
When you
actually
have
a
someone
completely
who's been
fair argument
convicted
to
of-
talk about what both sides are doing when it comes to the
But
conversation
when you
in this
have
country
someone
toward
who's been
political
convicted of
rhetoric.
34 felony counts, convicted of, right, and someone says lock them up, and then the person on the stage says no, we're not going to lock them up, we're going to vote them out, right? That's what Kamala Harris says. We're going to shift the language. That's one thing. But when you have these people who are of color, right, who are brown and black, who come from a country which has been decimated through natural disaster, through political corruption, who are only coming here to contribute to this American society the way they do, and the people who they work for say they're good citizens, the people who they pay taxes to say they're good citizens. You're not, and then you bastardize them by saying that they are the least amount of human being, by saying they eat our dogs and eat our cats. That is not the intellectual equivalence. And so, yeah, I have a problem with lock them up chants at our rallies. I do. So does Kamala Harris. She puts her foot in the ground. I also have a problem with him bastardizing black and brown people and saying get them out the country, because if something happens to a little brown boy or girl who is Haitian in Ohio, that's on his hands. And they have a bullet or a bullseye, is probably the better term, on their back.
And it won't just happen to Haitian immigrants in that city. That becomes then the wider scope of how people see Haitian immigrants, period, which is why it's a problem.
All right, guys, everyone stick around. Coming up next.